Hey everyone, this is Ben with RegisteredNurseRN.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about medical assistants. And I'm going to give you the job overview, the education requirements, some of the likes and dislikes of this profession, and I'm going to give you detailed salary information so you can know exactly how much money these individuals make on average here in the United States. So let's get started. What exactly does a medical assistant do? Well, these individuals complete administrative and clinical tasks in the offices of physicians and other healthcare professionals. And some of the examples of the duties that you will do as a medical assistant on a daily basis include billing and coding information, which you will take and then submit to insurance companies. You will measure vital signs, take and record patient history and personal information. You will also give patients injections under the supervision of a doctor, and you will also schedule patient appointments and prepare blood for laboratory tests. And so those are some of the tasks that you will do on a daily basis. Now let's talk about the education requirements. What do you have to do if you want to become a medical assistant? Well, in most cases, you are going to have to go to school for at least a year. It usually is between 1 year to 2 years, and you do that through a community college or technical school that has a medical assistant program. You usually just get a diploma or certificate during that time, and once you get that, it will involve a little bit of clinical work and so forth, and once you get that, then you will be able to work as an MA, which is a medical assistant. And you can sometimes do it just by having a high school diploma and going through an on-the-job training program. Those aren't as common, and a lot of people are trying to push now to get at least the 1 year certificate or diploma program. A lot of times they will go and maybe even do 2 years. So that is how you become a medical assistant. You want to look in your area and see what kind of programs technical schools offer and what credentials they give you, and you want to make sure it's a good accredited program. Now let's talk about some of the likes and the dislikes for medical assistants. Well, some of the likes are, first of all, they love working with patients. One of the things you're going to find is that one of the largest industries where medical assistants work are actually in offices of physicians. So if you think about a typical doctor office, what's it like? It's usually very laid back, low key, with music playing and magazines around everywhere. So it's a really relaxed setting. A lot of them like how they can work with patients. Next, they think that it's a relatively easy job in terms of it's not very demanding and very stressful. You just do those clerical duties, and you also deal with some injections and lab work here and there. But overall, it's not too difficult. And of course, again, that nice atmosphere that's a little bit more relaxed than other healthcare settings. Next, they tend to love the hours because most doctor offices work on like an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 type shift, maybe Monday through Friday. So it's more traditional work week. And some of those medical assistants prefer that as opposed to working like 12-hour shifts or a much more varied schedule. So that's one thing they like. And then finally, a lot of them feel like it's a good foundation and it's not a bad job for moving in later if they want to become a nurse or go into another healthcare profession. They feel that it provides them a really good foundation for that. Now, what are the dislikes of this profession? Well, one thing is that a lot of people will complain about the pay. They feel like they don't earn enough money, that sometimes they earn about as much or maybe a little more than a CNA, and they feel that other professions like an LPN, for example, they make a little bit more based on roughly the same schooling. And so a lot of them are unhappy about that. Another thing is that some people feel that there's a lot of scarcity in terms of jobs. It's really hard to find a job in some areas. Now, I'm going to talk about the jobs in a minute, and I'll give you some information about that, but that's one criticism. Excuse me. Another thing is that some of the technical schools will be quite expensive, and they complain about that because they feel like for the amount of tuition they have to pay, they're not getting a huge bump of pay increase or a lot of skills that they can use to earn that higher income. So they feel like the school sometimes doesn't pay off in terms of what they can do. And then finally, if you work for a rude doctor, it can throw off everything. And some doctors can be demanding or rude, and so they don't like that because that's their boss all day. And of course, some doctors are really nice, and so your mood can be greatly influenced by the doctor you work for or whatever. So that's a little bit about the likes and dislikes. Now let's talk about some of these detailed salary statistics. First of all these numbers that I'm getting ready to mention come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the government agency that collects and records jobs data. And these numbers are accurate as of 2014. So, as of 2014, there were 584,970 medical assistants in the United States. That's quite a few jobs. Now, the interesting thing is that even though a lot of people say that there are job shortages out there, the Bureau of Labor Statistics does predict a 29% growth rate between years 2012 and 2022. So within that decade, they think there's going to be 29% of an increase of jobs. And one thing that I found interesting that they noted was that a lot of medical assistants out working right now are actually the baby boomer population, and they're nearing retirement age. So they think that a large portion of the medical assistants may retire, and that's going to open up a lot of jobs in the future. I mean, it's always hard to say because each area is different. You can always look at local jobs in your area to see if there are a lot of positions available for that if you're interested in going this route. And then next, what about the hourly wage and salary for medical assistant? Well, in the U.S., the average hourly wage was $15.01. That's the average across the whole United States. Now, the average salary, $31,220 per year. Now, those are only averages. You may make more or less depending on where you live, the industry in which you work, and so forth. And I'm going to talk about some of those factors. What industry had the highest employment level for this profession? Well, the majority of medical assistants are going to work in the offices of physicians. That was the highest one. The average salary there was $31,230. Next, general medical and surgical hospitals came in at number 2. $32,910 was the average salary there. And then number 3, offices of other healthcare practitioners, maybe chiropractor and so forth. That was $28,040 for the average salary there. So most of them work in doctor's offices. Now, what about the top paying industries for this profession? Well, number 1 was scientific research and development service companies, and the average salary there, $36,670. Personal care services came in at number 2. $36,030 was the average salary there, and then insurance carriers came in at number 3. $35,090 was the average salary there. Now, let's talk about the top paying states for medical assistants. Which states paid the most money? Well, the District of Columbia came in at number 1 at $39,860. Alaska came in at number 2, $39,680. And then Massachusetts came in at number 3, $37,640. What were the lowest paying states? West Virginia came in at the lowest, $25,130. Alabama came in next with $25,930. And then Louisiana, number 3, $26,700. Now, I have a whole playlist on YouTube with a whole lot of these different salary videos. I go through nursing, I go through doctors, physical therapists, occupational therapists, all kinds of different professions within the healthcare industry, and I go through just like I did in this video. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out some other professions to kind of compare. But that wraps up this video. That's a little bit about medical assistants. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.